This is a story that starts with a birthday card and ends with a tear of gratitude. For a number of years, I was chief executive of a manufacturing company in the Midwest. We had plants all over the Midwest. And if you were an employee of that company, on your birthday, you received a birthday card. So every single month, I had to sign a birthday card for every single employee of the company. It was one of my favorite things to do. Well, one day after I finished signing all those birthday cards, I received a phone call from the manager of one of our manufacturing plants. And he had found the perfect employee and he wanted to hire this person. And I said, you of all people know that you don't have to call me and ask permission to hire this individual. If you found the right person, go ahead and hire him. And they said, well, there's a catch. And I said, what is it? And they said, well, they have a felony on their record. And I said, okay, well, what was it? How long ago was it? What did they do? And they said, well, it was 8 years ago. And I said, okay. And they said, and the person drove the getaway car in an armed robbery. And I thought, wow, that's a little bit more significant than I thought it might have been. But the person said, I really want to hire this person. They were great in the interview. I know they're going to be perfect. And I said, I'll tell you what, go ahead and hire them. But if you figure out at some point that you made a mistake, just make it right as quickly as possible. He agreed to that, and we went ahead and hired the person. As it turned out, they were everything that we thought they would be. They started work early, they worked late, they came in on Saturdays, tremendous amounts of initiative, even showed some leadership on the shop floor. Well, about once a quarter, I like to go and visit these manufacturing facilities. And so I was on my regular visit, and I walked in the door, and the first thing I would do is walk right out to the shop floor. So I walked out to the shop floor, and I saw this individual, and they were about 300 feet away from me down an aisle on a fork truck. And I started walking that way because that was the direction I was going to walk, and the person got off of the fork truck, and they were standing there, just looking at me. And I got to where I was about 100 feet away, and this person was standing there, and then 50 feet away. And then all the way up to him, I could see the tattoos on his arms, I could see the beads of sweat on his forehead, and he was standing in the aisle. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of walking around him. It was my plant. And so I walked up to him and I stopped. And I looked at him and I said, Alan? And he said, Matt. And then his right hand started coming up from the side of his body, and I began to wonder a little bit about what I had gotten myself into. And then I saw a tear forming in his eye. And as he stuck his hand out to shake my hand, he said this. He said, I want to tell you how much I appreciate that card that you sent me on my birthday. He said, a guy like me, I haven't received too many birthday cards in my life, and it means so much to me that I work for a company that cares enough about me to send me a birthday card on my birthday. And I want you to know that I so very much appreciate the opportunity that you've given me here, and I so very much appreciate the fact that you took a chance on me. And I want you to know that as long as I work here, and I hope that's a really long time, I will never, ever let you down. Let that story be a message to any employer who ever wondered whether hiring an ex-offender was worth it.
With that, Matt, I'll leave things over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Melissa. Thank you, all of you, for joining us here for another edition of Webinar Wednesday. And now you know why I have been so excited about today's topic. This is such an important topic. The people that will be joining us today are doing incredible work, and I'm so excited to make a couple of introductions to all of you here today. The first one is of Randy Scott. Randy's photo is on the left-hand side of your screen. He was born and raised in the state of Wisconsin. He served in the Marine Corps after high school and worked after that for 11 years in industry, at which point in time he decided to attend college to pursue an education degree, a degree that he received in 1997, and later received a master's degree in educational leadership. During his 4 years in public education in social studies, he taught students in both 7th and 9th grade. He transitioned to a career with the Department of Corrections in the year 2004. He started out as a teacher, and then in 2010, Randy was promoted to education director, the position that he holds today. He's proud to say that he's a single dad with 2 children, an 18-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old son, who both live with him in Boston, Wisconsin. Randy Scott, it's such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Nice to be with you.
And our second guest, and Randy, we're so looking forward to your comments and your input today. Our second guest is our friend Angie Martin. And Angie is the Director of Business and Industry Services for Western Technical College in La Crosse, Wisconsin. A key component to her role at Western is connecting with businesses to learn about their training, development, and their workforce needs. Angie's diverse professional background in manufacturing, retail, quality assurance, along with her bachelor's degree in organizational development, which she earned from Viterbo University in La Crosse, uniquely position her to understand a variety of business needs. And I will add, uniquely positions her to be a great guest on Webinar Wednesday. Angie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Very happy to be here. Thanks.
So this is a really, really important topic. As those of you who caught the video at the beginning know, it's one that's near and dear to my heart. I've seen so many lives fundamentally transformed by opportunities and careers in manufacturing. And what we're talking about today is exactly how we give individuals transitioning from incarceration into the workforce the skills and the competencies that they need to help them be successful when they get here and they get there. And that's why I'm so excited about this topic. We're going to start out with a question for Randy. I said, Randy, instead of us explaining your program, I know our listeners and our viewers today want to hear it right from the experts. So tell us a little bit about the program that you're running these days.
Right now we're not running a program, but what you see in the background there was our electromechanical program. It was 12 students who were being taught in various aspects of the industrial maintenance curriculum, earning 12 credits toward a bigger pathway in industrial maintenance. And I'm trying to desperately find the courses that were there. So things like technician apprenticeship, machine, mathematics, industrial manufacturing technician, transition to trainer, communications, that sort of thing. That was all taught in there. We'd put 12, we did 3 cohorts of 12, 36 guys did a very great job. It was all in the mobile lab. And what we do with that is we've actually expanded into some other areas because of the mobile lab. We are getting a CNC lab, hopefully shortly, that will expand on everything we're doing at JCI and in the Department of Corrections, along with some other institutions who are doing some things. At JCI, we've also started just recently an MSSC program, Manufacturing Skills and Standards Certificate, that fits nicely with the electromechanical, the industrial maintenance program, and on everything that goes with that. We started it about, Angie, about a year and a half ago. We had to do some quick alterations when COVID hit, but the guys got through. They're doing very well as employees right now in our maintenance department and other places in the facility. They do a great job. They're saving us money from what they're learning when they're helping our maintenance department do some fixing of belts and electrical panels and stuff like that. So where sometimes we just replace something, they know how to adjust it to make them last longer. So they're doing a wonderful job for us right now.
And those maintenance skills are so very important, aren't they, Randy? And we talked a little bit as we were preparing for the program. I remember you telling a story that I want you to share with our audience when you mentioned MSSC, the Manufacturing Standards Skills Council, and you talked about visiting a federal prison and coming to the conclusion that MSSC made sense. Can you share that story with our listeners today?
Sure. We, me and another ed director went to Oxford Federal Correctional Facility in Oxford, Wisconsin, just to check out what they were doing there with apprenticeships and everything else. Well, they did a program, MSSC, and what they found out is the guys who were going through there, and they had just recently placed 3 of those guys into Foxconn in southeastern Wisconsin. And they were making $35 to $37 an hour starting just because of that MSSC for certificate. They went a little further and did some of the green industry certification and stuff like that. But it's pretty much the same certificate that we're going to do. And it is going to boost just that in manufacturing, their ability to get a job by 50% easy.
Fantastic. That's just incredible. And when you think about that type of income and somebody, leaving incarceration and having the opportunity to earn the kind of money that you just referenced, what a great opportunity to put those folks on the right trajectory as they move on with their lives. Speaking of the right trajectory, Angie, how do we take employers and talk about how we put them on the right trajectory toward understanding this pool of candidates and the opportunities that they present?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that's really in the partnership that we've established where the technical college system can bring some value to the program. Um, each of the technical college systems has a division similar to the one that I work in at Western, where our key role is really to be out talking with employers and finding out what their training and development needs are and where their workforce shortages are. So by having that information and that knowledge, we're able to kind of work hand in hand with Department of Corrections to make some recommendations as to the skill set that is going to land these folks a job when they're coming out of incarceration. In doing doing that as well, it really helps us leverage those relationships. So, for example, we're working with employers to have them come in and spend some time talking to the students, and not necessarily just the human resource directors and the people that are doing the hiring, but bringing in an individual who's working in industrial maintenance in a manufacturing facility that can share with them exactly what their day looks like, the good money that there is to be made, the opportunities that exist for them if they stick with it and stick with this career choice.
So that relationship between the employer and the inmate or the future employee is so very important. There's other relationships that are really important in this puzzle as well. We
Mhm.
talk about the importance of the instructor, and having worked with Western Technical College, I know that you've just got a tremendous faculty there, really, really good people, committed to their students, committed to their communities. But I also know that there are some unique personality traits and unique aspects to being an instructor in the type of environment that we're chatting about here this afternoon. Tell us about those unique personality traits and what you look for in an instructor for this program.
Sure, I'd be happy to share kind of on our journey as we were partnering with Department of Corrections to set up the first electromechanical lab. It really took an individual who had, using the term out of the box thinking, who was able to look at things a little bit differently, look at the structure of the program differently. Because at the end of the day, the classroom is very different. The setup is different. How you are able to move students through the curriculum and through the workstations within the classroom is different than a traditional setup. So you really need to have an instructor who can think out of the box and look at what's in front of them, and then maybe adapt it over to an environment that would work in the corrections
So
system.
unique aspects to those instructors, unique personality traits. As you talk to the instructors that have been involved in this program, I've got to believe it's a rewarding opportunity for them. What type of feedback do you get from your instructors?
I would say one thing, I'm just going to piggyback a little bit on the last statement of where we have found great success with our instructors is the two that we have brought on board to specifically work in the lab environment with corrections. Both are veterans.
Hmm.
So I think that skill set is perfect for this because they have a lot of different experience in their background that they've gained through military. They appreciate the structure of the environment, but are able to be flexible with the students and understanding that there are just certain times they need to be in a different space and working with them to get caught up. So I think the fact that they're veterans, it really makes them very motivated to help these students succeed, right? So the feedback that we've gotten from our instructors that have worked in this environment is they are definitely the most motivated group of students that they've seen, because think about it, they've got some life experiences, good, but also a lot of bad. They are many of them have never had an opportunity for continued education. So the idea of, enforcing and really holding up the fact that they're in a college course and they're being successful at that. They're motivated to do well and ask great questions, and to be really engaged in what's happening in the classroom and outside of the classroom. They continue their study.
So unique instructors in a unique environment with unique experiences and unique feedback that we're receiving from them.
Correct.
Certainly, that is a bit of a theme here as far as the unique learning environment. Randy, and as much as Angie shared with us the uniqueness of the instructors, what are some of the unique challenges that you run into with this group of learners that might be a little bit different than a traditional classroom?
Uh, Keeping them out of trouble, I guess, and I say that with a smile, but these guys come in and they're some of the smartest, brightest guys we have who just made bad choices in life. But a lot of them I'm confident are going to get out of here. But sometimes they get caught up into things on units and stuff, whether by their own fault or another inmate, and get taken to restrictive housing where they're missing some classes. But the instructors have been great, and if they're released in a short amount of time, we're figuring out how to get them caught up, and they work through those things. So it's just a different thing getting them in and out, making sure, because of the tools that are involved and the equipment that are involved, we're doing inventories every day where they're going through metal detectors, and so it's kind of unusual circumstances, but work around. Some of them want to have jobs in the institution, and so that's where our new format, as we during COVID, we learned to split them up in, instead of 12 guys all in one lab, it's 6 and 6, 2 days a week, every day. So it's a Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday type thing. But just finding the guys who are qualified, who can get in there, I think is another chore, and we do the best we can with that. And we're working great with WTC in finding ways to do that other than a standardized kind of testing, where we can do automatically do some of the college math or language courses that would work in place of the testing that puts them into, qualifies them. And then obviously conduct reports and past history, and um, our security department is a big plus in that too. So it's working with everybody in the institution to get these guys in. But once they're in there, they're there. We put holds on them. They will sit and complete this stuff. I have one guy who went through this program who is now in MSSC. We have a hold on. He's going to minimum soon, but he's going to wait till he gets done. And that's the nice thing. They want to keep going. They want to keep going to minimum. So trying to find enough space for them to go to the welding program down at Prairie or Stanley or any of these other institutions, they want to build on what they've started.
So
And
clearly, you're
sometimes
incredibly committed to this group of learners, to this unique group of learners. Randy, what type of feedback do you get from the learners? You touched on the fact that they want to stay in the program, they want to complete. What is some of the other participant feedback that you get?
this is, I mean, when I talk about this, and I mean, I get an instant reaction of, just because it's a new program, boom, they want to come in. We have aquaponics coming in fairly soon, where some of what they're learning in electromechanics, MSSC, CNC is going to transfer over into that. These guys are excited to have these opportunities. They love the classes. They love working once they're done. The one guy I have who works in maintenance, I'm serious. He has saved our maintenance department literally thousands of dollars by what he knows how to do from this one program, the electromechanical, and these 12 credits. And you put MSSC along with that and some of this other stuff, which he's moving through quickly. They love this and they stick to it. They work together. They join those student kind of groups and ask questions and work on projects together, and it's just an amazing thing to see a bunch of grown men who you don't think of as students really, um, coming together. And you get a lot of hope that these guys are going to go out and they're going to fill a lot of needed positions and do it successfully.
Absolutely, and that's just important. And on that topic of filling needed positions and doing it successfully, I know that our employers that are on with us today and are listening in, I mean, they have to be just incredibly impressed at what these students are learning. CNC, welding, you're learning technologies like maintenance awareness and production processes and quality and safety. I shared my experience in that video at the beginning with hiring people that had previously been incarcerated. For our employers that are on with us today, Randy, and listening and saying, "Man, when do I get to recruit these people? How do I get into a position where they can be standing in line, or I can be standing in line when they're ready to enter the workforce?" At what point should an employer get engaged and start recruiting individuals in your program?
If I would say that's a great question, and I've been working on this. I've contacted a bunch of employers around our Jackson County, Wisconsin area um, to see if I can join or create some partnerships, create some even scholarship type things where they will train them. We'll do whatever they want to. I would say contact me as soon as possible. Even if you are anticipating jobs in the future, I'll find the guys that are releasing to your area. I'll find the guys who maybe have interstate compacts who can go to those areas, but I'll find them in the state of Wisconsin. If they're releasing, I'll get them through the program and we'll set something up. They'll complete the program. They'll do whatever time when they get within a certain amount of time for release. We'll contact you. You can come right to the institution. We'll do it by, hopefully I have a picture Polycom or picture Zoom by then, and we can do a Zoom meeting with them and you can interview them right on the spot and you can make your choices from that point forward. But we're willing to do the training for you. If you want welding, we'll get them through what we have. I'll work with the other institutions that have welding to get them down there and we'll go from there. But as far as employees, we're looking for those partnerships right now to connect with these guys, to come in, interview them before they get out of corrections, and so they're day one, they're working right for you.
And everybody wins, right? So the certainly, and the
Everybody
employer wins
wins.
by being able to recruit and put on their team somebody with some great skills and some great experience. The employee wins by entering the workforce in a position that pays well, that sustains a family, and I think probably in many ways, most importantly, limits the opportunity for recidivism. And I want to ask Angie this question, and then I'll pose the same question to Randy because I know you both have some thoughts on this. But tell us a little bit about the statistics of learners, of inmates who are going through this program. Once they re-enter the workforce, they're much less likely to reoffend, are they not, Angie?
Yep, absolutely. So the statistics that we have basically say that you're looking at lowering the recidivism rate by 43% when you provide them technical education. So when you think about that and you really put some dollars and cents to it, if someone reoffends and ends up back into the system, you're looking at a cost of at minimum $38,000 to $40,000 per year that the state is paying to support that person in the system. So the value and the cost of this investment in this educational opportunity is quickly paid off when you can keep that many folks working and supporting
Make
families.
economic sense and ethical sense all at the same time.
Mhm.
Randy, what are your thoughts on this idea of recidivism?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at, the 43 to 50% or so, or even in some cases higher. But just the excitement I've seen in these guys, I know what their crimes are and those types of things. Knowing that they've got good support systems, I have occasional contact with grandparents or parents, whoever that support system is, and that's a big deal.
Mhm.
Going back out and not getting involved in the same old is a big deal, and this goes a long way, a very long way, to helping solve that issue.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I mean, with all the benefits that are there, I think from being in manufacturing for over 11 years, I think the one thing as I went through it, that's a big deal. This saves companies a lot of training money, and we're willing to do that. They just come on and get the experience.
So, like we said after the last answer, winners all around when we make this program work the way that it can. I've got one more question for Angie before we open it up to questions from our audience. So, as questions are occurring to our audience members, if you have questions for either Angie or for Randy, please put them in that Q&A. Continue to put those in the chat, and Melissa will take a look at those questions and pose them to our guests here in just a moment. But Angie, one final question for you. Everybody loves a success story. Do you have a success story for this program that sticks out to you as you think about the experiences and the work that you and Randy have done?
Yeah, I think I would share some that are personal to Western. So, from the standpoint of the skill set that they're learning in these, we are definitely utilizing the pathway programs that have been established by the technical colleges. So, in other words, they're learning some entry level skills that will land them great jobs in the workforce. But the other side of that, too, is they're gaining college credit. So, we try to work with them too from a recruitment standpoint, because they may want to go on. They may want to continue. This is their first taste of success in an educational environment. We had a student that was from our first cohort that we taught at Jackson who did just that. He was very comfortable with the instructor that we had teaching, and the instructor was teaching at the campus as well. So he enrolled in the electrical automation program, associate degree program at Western. It was at the time when COVID had started. So he released back to the Madison area, but was able to be a Western student because some of the things were happening virtually. He got permission from parole officer to come to La Crosse to do some of the labs. And now that he's established and is doing well as a student, our faculty has worked with him to get him connected in Madison. So he's continuing that education and moving towards his associate degree as a student now at Madison Area Technical College. So it's workforce, but it's also an opportunity for them to continue their education.
And as we do with so many of the projects that we have the pleasure of working on, it really is about creating as many options as possible for the learner. Not every option is perfect for every learner. We certainly have some that'll go direct to workforce. Some, as Angie has pointed out, continuing their education. Speaking of continuing our education, I've learned so much so far today on this webinar. And Melissa, I know that our audience is learning plenty as well, but we always have questions that roll in, and I see that some have. So I will turn it over to you for the moment to pose the questions that have come from the audience.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. And again, to our audience members, feel free to shoot those questions into the Q&A box. All right, the first question that was submitted, Randy, Angie, is something like this currently offered, or is it in the plans to be offered at the women's correctional facilities?
Randy, I'll let you field what you know is available there.
I know they're, and I'm trying to think, I believe they have the welding lab at Cheetah Correctional Institution. So it may not be MSSC, electromechanical, CNC, but yes, they are getting these things. And I believe, and I'm trying to think of what the other lab is, they're in a switch with Kettle Moraine. And I believe Kettle Moraine Correctional is getting another lab or somewhere in there. But yes, the welding lab does go up to Cheetah. They are looking for more in those areas because yes, they want the women to have just as many opportunities as the guys do.
And I'll add to that, Melissa. I know that Racine County actually has a pretty active program with their women's correctional facility as well. And in fact, we've interacted with a number of those students during our time at Gateway Technical College. So I know there's several of those going on throughout the state, and certainly a great question.
Excellent. Randy, were there any students that you found wanted to participate in this program, but maybe had some math or reading skills that weren't quite up to par, and how did you address that?
Well, one of the criteria for getting into the program was a TABE score or under the new TABE, under a level 5, a 10th grade reading and math level. So if they don't have those scores, we'll give them the TABE again. We'll take them through a refresher type course to get them there. But what I'm working on with WTC is instead of those TABE scores and getting them through there, we're working on what used to be, well, the AccuPlacer. We don't give them the AccuPlacer. We're just going to assume that people coming in need the math and the language. So they're going to sit through those classes. They're going to pass at 80% or whatever we decide, and then they're good to go. So we want to give them the scores so more guys can get into the programs. But
Yeah,
right now we use the TABE and we find those guys who qualify.
right. I think it's really about looking at the placement testing and not necessarily viewing it as a placement. Sometimes you feel like that's what keeps people out, right? They're not good enough to do that, but not viewing it as that. We use it as a tool to find out what supports they need and then provide them with that help to get them where they need to be successful.
Great, wonderful, thank you. One final question, were there any mistakes that you guys made when you were developing this program, maybe that somebody else wanting to do something similar in their region could avoid? Or maybe on the other end of the spectrum, any best practices or tips for getting started?
I will answer that. I would say that a couple of things that we learned that I wish we would have addressed sooner is if anyone's starting the program, always be aware of the IT challenges that come when you're working in a corrections environment, because the access to web-based programs is not always there, or it can be there, but it takes some work and collaboration with Madison to make that happen. So we learned that. I think the other thing that's really important and that we're answering right now is looking at inside of the institution from a college perspective to place recruitment, just like we would if we were recruiting traditional students into that program. So going in, having educational pieces, brochures, videos, whatever it is that we can help show individuals on the front end what electromechanical really means, because they likely may have not been exposed to that, and to show them the opportunities on the front end to build interest in these programs and keep the enrollments coming within the institution.
And I would just add, I think the communication, and not just between Western and Jackson, but with our central office, with workforce development, with everybody that was involved in this, whether it pertained to me or anybody else, they kept everybody in the loop of what was going on. And we worked through issues together. Obviously, coming into the institution is an issue in itself. How do we get it in? Where's it going to go? That was an issue for us to handle. Line of sight, cameras, all that good stuff. Can we find a place to put that? We have. It works well, and it's looked after very well. So there is a lot of things, but I would say if you're going to do this, get everybody in there the first chance you get.
Excellent. Thanks, Randy. And for everyone else who submitted questions, I know we're running short on time here, so we'll make sure, if you do have follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to these folks, to us, and we'll make sure to get those answered, because I know this is a topic of interest to many people. With that, I will leave it to Matt to wrap things up for this afternoon.
Well, thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Melissa, first of all, for producing today's event. And as always, you did a phenomenal job in that regard. So we very much appreciate all of your efforts. We talk a lot here on Webinar Wednesday about the importance of securing the American dream for the next generation of STEM and workforce talent. And by the American dream, we mean all Americans, no exceptions. And so I want to just recognize the great work that Angie Martin and that Randy Scott are doing for folks that are presently incarcerated, but looking to get a new lease on life, looking for a great second chance, and making sure that they have the skills necessary to be successful when they get there. That is good for everybody. It is really important work. So Angie and Randy, thank you to both of you so very much for being our guests today. We are really, really excited about several more events coming up here on Webinar Wednesday. To just give you a brief idea, next week we will be joined by some folks from ISD 917 in suburban Minneapolis and the Twin Cities to talk about building an Industry 4.0 program at the high school level. The week after that, we are going to be talking all about how we teach artificial intelligence. We hear a lot about artificial intelligence. Many educators are struggling with how to teach it. We will have subject matter experts that will join us and explain to you options for teaching artificial intelligence. And finally, in 3 weeks from today, we will have a discussion with the CEO of the MKE of the Milwaukee Tech Hub about how to turn your region into a technology destination. So from all of us here at Webinar Wednesday, thank you for joining us again here this week, and we will see you a week from today on Webinar Wednesday. Thank you.